I wasn't supposed to find it. It was buried deep, hidden under warped floorboards in a house no one had lived in for decades. The air inside was thick, stale, as if it had been holding its breath. I almost didn't see it, wrapped in layers of decayed cloth, tucked away like a secret never meant to be uncovered. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. The diary was old, too old. The leather cover was cracked, the pages brittle beneath my fingers, stained with something darker than time, and the smell, damp earth, and something else, something wrong. At first it seemed ordinary, faded ink, slanted handwriting, the private thoughts of someone long gone. But then I turned the page, and my stomach twisted. The final entry, the words, they changed everything. I should have never read them, because now something knows I did. The house had been abandoned for longer than anyone could remember. Tucked away at the end of a forgotten road, it stood like a skeleton, its frame warped, its windows hollow, its walls sagging as if tired of holding their own weight. No one lived here, no one dared. I had heard the stories, of course. Everyone had. Tales of strange lights flickering behind cracked glass, whispers that seemed to bleed from the walls when the wind died down. Some said it had once been a happy home, but others insisted that something had happened here, something terrible. I wasn't supposed to be here. But curiosity is a cruel thing. With each step across the rotting wood, the floor groaned in protest, the dust swirling up in the dim light that streamed through broken shutters. My breath came shallow. The air inside was thick with age, heavy with the scent of mildew and something else. A scent I couldn't quite place. And then, beneath my feet, a hollow sound. I froze. A loose board. Slowly I knelt, my fingers tracing along the warped wood until I found it, the edge of something that didn't belong. With careful hands, I pried it free, and that's when I saw it. A bundle of cloth, dark with age, stiff with time. I reached for it, hesitant. The fabric crumbled at my touch, disintegrating like ash as I peeled it back. And then, nestled within the decay, I found it. A diary. The cover was cracked leather, its once rich color now faded to something dull and lifeless. The spine was brittle. The edges of the pages were warped, curling inward as if they had been damp once, long ago. I traced my fingers over the front. There was no title, no name, just silence. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I stood there for a long moment, the weight of it pressing against my palms. It felt wrong. Not just old, not just forgotten, but wrong. A thought crept into my mind, unbidden. What if someone put it here for a reason? What if it wasn't meant to be found? I swallowed hard. The silence around me seemed thicker now, like the house itself was holding its breath. But I ignored the unease clawing at the back of my mind and turned to the first page. And that's when I saw the name. Eleanor. The ink was faded, but the handwriting was neat, precise. A delicate script that curled at the edges, almost playful. I flipped the page. October 31st, 1942. A shiver ran down my spine. The date felt significant. I kept reading. At first, the entries were warm, ordinary. Eleanor wrote about small things, the changing leaves, the way her mother braided her hair in the mornings, the sound of her father humming in the kitchen as he prepared their meals. She described their home with careful affection, a grand house with polished floors, high ceilings, and a garden where she and her younger brother James played beneath the willow trees. She was happy, or at least she wanted to be. But as I turned the pages, something shifted. It was subtle at first. Small things, almost easy to overlook. A sentence scratched out here, a page missing there. Then darker hints began to creep in. Eleanor spoke of strange noises at night, a scratching sound beneath her bed, so faint she could almost convince herself it wasn't real. Her mother dismissed it as mice, but Eleanor wasn't sure. Then she mentioned her father acting strangely, pausing mid-sentence as if he had forgotten what he was saying. Standing in the hallway at night, staring at the walls, whispering to himself when he thought no one was listening. And then, the first real sign that something was terribly, terribly wrong. "There is a door in our house," she wrote one night, "a door that no one opens." I stopped reading. A locked door. It seemed so small, so insignificant. But the way she wrote it, I could feel her hesitation bleeding through the words. "James asked about it once," she continued. "Father got angry, angrier than I've ever seen him. He grabbed James by the wrist and told him never to speak of it again. Mother wouldn't look at us for the rest of the night. My breath came slower now. My fingers felt cold against the paper." Eleanor didn't write about the door again for a while. It was almost as if she had convinced herself to forget. But then, weeks later, she mentioned it again. "Something knocked from the other side last night." My pulse quickened. It was slow, deliberate. 3 knocks, then silence. I wanted to believe it was the wind. I wanted to believe a lot of things. She asked her mother again. Her mother refused to speak about it. "There are some things best left alone," she had said. But Eleanor couldn't leave it alone. Not after what happened next. I turned the page and the handwriting had changed. The careful looping script had become jagged, hurried. There were ink stains on the paper and a faint smudge, like a fingerprint pressed into something dark. "James is gone," the entry began. "Mother and father won't say where. They keep telling me he's fine, that I must have imagined him. But I know my own brother. I know he was real." I swallowed hard. At night, I hear him calling my name. The words were uneven now, as if written with a shaking hand. But when I open my door, the hallway is empty. I shivered. I kept reading, and with every page I turned, the entries became worse. The whispers grew louder. The knocking became more persistent. The locked door started to open on its own. And then, on the final page, before the ink turned frantic, before the words became illegible scratches, one last chilling line. "I think something else is living in this house." Silence. I exhaled, realizing I had been holding my breath. I had read too much, and for the first time since I entered this house, I felt it. A presence, watching me, waiting. I was not alone. I should have stopped reading. I should have put the diary back beneath the floorboards, walked away, and never looked back. But some things refused to be ignored, and so I turned another page. Her handwriting had changed again. The once neat script had become uneven, desperate, as if she had written these words in a hurry, glancing over her shoulder. "I don't sleep anymore." A chill ran down my spine. The knocking has started again, but it's different now. Before, it was only at night. Now I hear it during the day, too. Slow, rhythmic, but always in threes. She had begun marking the days in the margins, counting down the time between the knocks. At first, it was once a week, then every few days. Now it was every night, and then it was every hour. Last night I put my ear to the door. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could hear James on the other side. Maybe I just needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. A pause in the writing. The ink was heavier, pressed deep into the paper. Something was breathing. I turned the page. It's unlocked now. My breath caught. I didn't open it. I swear I didn't. But when I woke up this morning, the latch was undone. The handle was cold when I touched it, so cold that my skin burned. I don't know what's on the other side. I don't want to know. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. The door had unlocked itself. I kept reading. I tried telling Mother. She wouldn't look at me. She just shook her head and told me to be quiet. That night I heard her crying, but when I asked what was wrong, she only said one thing. It's listening. The next entries became shorter, more frantic. I feel it watching me. The shadows move when I'm not looking. There's something wrong with the mirrors. Eleanor was no longer the same girl from the first pages. The warmth in her words was gone. The curiosity had turned to terror. And then, one single sentence scrawled messily across an entire page. It knows I see it. I stared at the words, my fingers tightening around the edges of the diary. Something in the room felt different now. Closer. I turned the page and the ink was smeared as if she had written it with shaking hands. I woke up to a whisper. I swallowed hard. It said my name. The next few lines were rushed, scratched in deep, as if her hand had trembled violently as she wrote. I locked my door. It didn't matter. The whisper was inside my room. It was behind me. But when I turned around, a long blank space. Nothing. But at the very bottom of the page, 3 words. It is smiling. Eleanor had begun to unravel. Mother and father are different now. They don't speak anymore. They just stare. Their eyes are wrong, too wide, too dark. They don't blink, they don't eat. They just sit in the parlor, unmoving. And when I speak to them, they smile. But it's not real. I don't think they're my parents anymore. I gripped the diary tighter, my breath shallow. She had tried to leave, tried to run, but something had stopped her. I made it to the front door today. I could see the trees, the sky, the world beyond this house. I turned the handle, and then I woke up in my bed. The ink was frantic now, jagged lines, scratched out words. It won't let me leave. I'm trapped. I don't know how much longer I can fight it. The last entry before the page turned brittle was barely legible, like she had written it through tears. James was the first, then father, then mother. They all heard the knocking. They all answered it. And now, it's my turn. I was shaking. The silence in the house was unbearable now. The walls felt closer. The air felt thicker. But I had to know. I turned to the very last entry. There were only 2 lines. If you are reading this, it already knows you're here. And now it's coming for you too. A distant knock echoed through the house. 3 slow knocks. I stopped breathing. I snapped the diary shut. My hands were ice cold. My heartbeat was a drum inside my skull. I forced myself to move, to leave. But as I turned, my footfalls felt wrong. Too many, like something was walking just behind me. I took another step. So did it. The room seemed darker now. The hallway stretched too far, and then, just as I reached the door, a whisper, low, amused, right against my ear. You shouldn't have read it. I should have never come here. I should have left the diary where it was, buried under the floorboards, sealed away like a forgotten secret. But some things are meant to be found, and now it won't let me go. I can feel it, watching, waiting, closer than before. I don't think I'm alone anymore. My fingers trembled as I held the diary. It felt heavier now, like it was breathing in my hands. I wanted to put it down, to walk away, but something in me refused. The pages felt different as I turned them, no longer brittle, no longer warped with time. It was as if they had been written just moments ago. And then, something changed. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, that my mind was still tangled in Eleanor's final words. But then I saw it. The ink was still wet. A single drop bled into the page, dark as night. And there, beneath Eleanor's last entry, beneath the words that warned me I had been seen, a new line had appeared. It hadn't been there before. "Hello?" I froze. My mouth went dry. I turned the page. More words. "I see you." My breath caught in my throat. "You shouldn't have read this." I tried to move, tried to throw the diary away, but my hands wouldn't obey. My fingers only gripped tighter. And then, on the next page, something worse. "Turn around." I couldn't. I wouldn't. The air around me had turned thick, almost solid. The room felt wrong, stretching at the edges like something pressing against reality from the outside. A whisper slithered through the silence. My name. It knew my name. I forced my body to move. I ran, but the hallway was longer than before. Too long. The walls pulsed like something alive, shifting, twisting. The light flickered. The air felt sharp. And then, the knocking started again. Slow, measured, 3 times. I gasped, stumbling, my heartbeat a drum against my ribs. It was closer, right behind me. I didn't turn around, I couldn't. The diary burned in my hands now, the pages flipping on their own. And then, scrawled across the last page in fresh ink, "I am here." The lights went out. The air was thick with silence. But I was not alone. I felt it move in the darkness, just beyond the reach of my senses. Something cold brushed my neck, a breath that did not belong to me. Then the whisper, low, crawling, so close. "You shouldn't have read it." The voice was wrong. Too many voices speaking at once. Male, female, young, old, twisting and overlapping in a sound that made my skin crawl. I felt something behind me, a presence looming in the dark. I still couldn't turn around, but in the silence I heard it move. Not footsteps, something else, like fingers dragging against wood, a slow, deliberate sound. Then another whisper, right against my ear. "Look at me." I squeezed my eyes shut. My breath came fast and shallow. I could still feel the diary in my hands, the weight of it pressing into my skin. But now, something was wrong. It was still writing. The pages turned by themselves, the ink bleeding across them in jagged, frantic strokes. I forced my eyes open. The words formed before me. "You brought me back. You read my words. And now I write yours." I gasped, my grip tightening. The words kept appearing, growing more violent, more unhinged. "You shouldn't have come here. You shouldn't have looked. You shouldn't have read. You shouldn't have let me out." The diary screamed. Not words, a sound, a howling, inhuman wail that burst from the pages and filled the room. The walls shook. The air grew heavy. I couldn't breathe. And then, the lights flickered back on. I was somewhere else now. The walls weren't mine. The floor wasn't mine. The air smelled different, damp, cold, rotten. I knew this place, the house from the diary. I turned, slowly, heart pounding, and there it was, the locked door. Only this time, it was open. A sliver of blackness stretched beyond the threshold. The air from inside was wrong. It didn't feel empty. It felt full. Something stood in the dark. Not a shape, not a shadow, something else, something smiling, and then the whisper. Come closer. I don't remember running. I don't remember how I got out. I only remember the diary slamming shut in my hands as if it had never been opened. I was back, in my own house. The room was normal again. The air was still. The silence was deafening. But something was different. My hands were covered in ink, fresh ink, and on the cover of the diary, burned into the leather, was something new. A name. Not Eleanor's. Mine. I should have burned it. I should have taken the diary outside, poured gasoline over it, and watched the flames erase every cursed word. But I didn't, because it wouldn't let me. The ink on my hands hadn't faded. My name, burned into the leather, wasn't disappearing. And the whisper had followed me home. I locked it away, shoved it in a drawer, buried it under books. But when I turned back, it was sitting on my desk, right in the center, waiting. I refused to touch it. I wouldn't open it again. But then, the pages began turning on their own, flipping, rustling. I watched, paralyzed, as new words began appearing in fresh ink. It was writing without me. And then I saw what it was saying. Bring me someone else. My stomach turned. Bring me someone else. The ink bled into the page, each letter darker, heavier, a demand. I shook my head, gripping the edges of my desk. Number I wasn't going to do this. The diary knew. It laughed, not in sound, but in writing. The words jittered on the page, uneven, like they were shaking with amusement. You think you have a choice? The lights flickered, the room stretched, distorting. The shadows weren't right. Then, a knock at the door. I froze. It was past midnight. No one should be here. Another knock, 3 times, just like the diary said. I forced my legs to move, my breath caught in my throat. Step by step, I approached the door. The floorboards felt softer beneath my feet, like I was sinking. I reached for the doorknob, and then the whisper, "Don't open it." I recoiled, heart hammering, but the knocking didn't stop. It was inside the house now. I ran. The walls stretched as I moved. The hallway was wrong again, too long, too dark. The air was thick with something unseen, something breathing just beyond my senses. The diary sat at the end of the hall, open, waiting, and scrawled across the pages, fresh ink, dripping. "Choose," I gasped. The words shifted, changed. "It's you or someone else." The air behind me grew cold. I turned. Something stood at the other end of the hall, tall, wrong. It had no face, just a mouth, smiling. And then the diary's final message, "Decide." I knew then. This was never just Eleanor's story. This was a trap. A story that needed an audience. A curse that needed a new name. It needed someone to take my place. I felt my fingers twitch. My breath slowed. Bring me someone else. Could I do it? Could I give it another name? Would it let me go? My gaze flickered to the diary. The ink pulsed. The walls whispered. The thing at the end of the hall moved closer. Time is running out. Who will it be? You read the diary. Now it knows your name too. Maybe you can pass it on. Like this video, subscribe, and whatever you do, don't turn around.